Hello, everybody. I am Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice, and today's special guest is John Langford Eli. He is the CEO of BRIDJ Technology, which happens to be a leading shared transit technology provider. So welcome to the show, John.
Thank you very much for having me.
Anytime. And you know, transportation is a huge issue that we have with respect to greenhouse gas emissions. And improving that is extremely important. So could you please, as simply as possible, explain what BRIDJ is?
Yeah, well, I suppose I'll start with our purpose. Really,
Yes.
our purpose is to empower organisations to deliver better shared transport. There are lots of fantastic operators and agencies out there in the world that are doing their best to deliver people services, and that's to help the public get to work. It's to help the elderly get to services. It's to help workers get to their workplace. It's to help deliver events. There are all types of shared transport that are the bedrock of how we live and move around our cities.
I love that.
And people are there working in the background to deliver that. And the way that they've done that historically is a lot of people involved and a lot of manual processes. And really what we're trying to do is just give them some tools, some technology that helps them deliver that more efficiently and effectively, and some data intelligence to help them understand their services better and improve them over time. And the end result is more services, using less resources, and hopefully more people getting out of their cars and jumping and using shared transport.
Absolutely. I mean, you touched on a lot of topics. I'll start with the equity side of it, which are social justice, meaning people who are elderly getting to their appointments, because a lot of times they can't get on and off a bus, they can't drive themselves. They're beholden to dial a ride, which is manual. Someone picks up the phone and says, okay, we can pick you up at this time on this date. That requires a ton of planning. That requires an individual to look at a map and say, okay, we have to start here, go here. That's very time structured. Also, with respect to the efficiency of it and making these cities livable, people want to get around their cities, and it's not always the best way to be in your car driving, circling, looking for parking, all of those gases. But also not everybody drives. It's not something that everybody has access to, whether by choice or not. We are now seeing younger generations that are choosing to not drive. And your technology, if you could explain it really simply, because I know you had to do it simply for me because I didn't quite understand it the first time we spoke, is that efficiency factor of basically doing 10,000 jobs at once, of mapping and coordinating.
Yeah, the way that I like to describe it is it's essentially a mission control. Right?
Yeah.
It's a nice analogy for people to picture, right? You've got a team, an operating team that sits behind the scenes, and they are the ones that pick up, receive the phone call, get the phone call, and then go, yes, I understand you want to go from here to there. And then they go away and they get the string out and they put it on a map and they work out, how long that's going to take to deliver that trip, where the vehicles are going to be, how long it takes to get to the pickup point, and then how you connect that trip to the next trip. So there's actually a lot of challenging calculations that need to be made just for one vehicle, let alone 10, 20, 100.
Yeah.
Right? So, we essentially provide the tools that allow them to take that phone call, quickly process a booking and automatically schedule it to the vehicles that the system knows are available. And you can start to embed other really important factors into the calculations, like, does that individual have a walking frame? Is it going to take longer to pick them up and drop them off? Because if you're predictively linking all these trips in advance, you're essentially taking estimates of travel times. And there are real world factors why it can be harder and take longer to pick certain people up.
Yeah.
So we can automate a lot of that heavy lifting. And by doing that, it allows the operators to start focusing on what they do really well, which is actually caring and servicing those customers, giving them additional support, ensuring that their vehicles and their drivers know what they're doing. And, our system provides them with a visualization of where their vehicles are on the road. They know exactly where their drivers are. They can
Just
send
real-time analytics of, that's really cool, actually.
real-time visualization of wherever their vehicles are. They can see, who they're going to pick up, whether they're on time, whether they're not. And their drivers are, through our driver application, they get turn-by-turn directions, and that can be updated. That can be updated based on new bookings coming in. They can see the customers that they're going to pick up, so it can be a more welcoming
Also
service.
safer. Safety is an issue. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we also provide a passenger application that allows people to book the service, so they don't need to call up, and they can see the vehicle arriving. Now, that an application isn't going to work for everybody, but actually we found a lot of the elderly, once you actually sit down with them and teach them how to use it, they love it. They adopt it. But that's only an optional tool, again, that can again basically connect your passengers to your drivers and to your operators, and it's a more integrated service than what it's been historically.
You touched on predictive. You kind of breezed by the word predictive, and I just want to hone in on that one because predictive modeling, predictive analyses are very important because you can have different times of day, different traffic patterns, rush hour, when it's quiet, if there's an accident. And you're going to start amassing data where you can now say, okay, so-and-so needs to go to the local hospital every Wednesday from 9 to noon. We know exactly the right time to pick this person up, drop them off, and how to get there the most efficient way. Well, maybe picking up 6 or 7 other people. I don't believe we have that capability right now to be that efficient.
It's if we narrow in on I suppose the non-emergency medical transport or the community transport side of things, the elderly transport, typically, they've got appointments, right, that they need to meet, and they need to plan in advance. So they want to make bookings in advance. They don't want to be subject to making an on-demand request on the day of service because they might not get a service.
That does happen.
What we do, we facilitate that the booking comes in, and then we basically do the optimization in advance. And our system does take into account the best known intelligence that we've got for what we expect to happen on that future day. So, we know based on historical travel times, at different times of the day, what's likely to happen. Again, we know the customer profile, so perhaps we have to allow a little bit more time. There are all these factors that start to go into it so that we can get as close as possible to reality. Now, there's always a gap between what you think is going to happen and what reality is. So you can't handle incidents or traffic, and you can never get it 100% right. But what you can do is react gracefully, right? So you can adjust services. You can provide extra support so the operator can get in touch with the customer and say, okay, we're still on our way. We're a little bit delayed, but we're going to be there. You can see that there's an incident and send out a new vehicle, right? So there are ways in which you can respond more proactively using technology than what you could otherwise.
Oh yeah, and being proactive will always save you time and money in the end. And what helping elderly, because I do know some people that are reliant on, calling a service to pick them up, take them to the hospital for their just for their appointments. And they have to book the pickup well in advance. But when they get picked up from the hospital, go back home, it's kind of we'll see when we get you. And they hate that. They said, we'll come anytime between 12 noon and 5 p.m.
Yeah.
That's a long time to sit in a chair in your local hospital.
Yeah.
And they don't tend to use them very often, and they just try to catch a ride with a friend. So that service you're offering is huge, but I don't want to miss out on the mass transit and giving people, we have driver shortages. And if you could explain that and how the efficiency, that's so important.
Yeah, and there are all these subsectors of shared transport that have different problems. But the driver shortage problem is probably one of those ones that crosses all of them. And the efficiency side of things can absolutely mean you can do more with less, right? So you can fulfill more bookings with less vehicles. That's a good thing. You can match where your routes are based on where, having better intelligence of where the demand actually is and the times of day that demand exists. So there's a data intelligence component to this that you can just if you've got better access to and insights from your data, you can make better decisions about where you should be, the frequency and the location in which you should be placing your services. But also just having a more connected, integrated environment where you've got your driver, you've got your passengers, you've got your operators. A lot of the historical systems, they've been very singularly focused, point solutions that don't necessarily flow through their whole ecosystem. So for driver training, it's really hard to find and retain and recruit drivers. And if you've got a big network with lots of different routes, you can imagine if you've got a new driver, really you can only train them on one or two routes, right? Because you've got to have someone there next to them, and you've got to go, well, obviously you need to learn how to drive a bus, but you also need to learn where you're going. And a lot of these old solutions don't actually provide turn-by-turn directions. So what's with our system, what we found in the training side of things is, well, you can train them on following the turn-by-turn directions. They get very comfortable with that. And then all of a sudden, if someone goes down sick that regularly drives one route, you can pull from your broader driver pool, not just your crews that generally do those individual routes, because that they're not going to have trouble following the route because they've got turn-by-turn directions. So
that's awesome.
It's just a little thing that I think is often not recognized, that a lot of these bus drivers go out there with, they just know their routes. But if you need them to go across onto new routes, it's not as easy as what it might seem.
Or if that driver retires, then you've lost this wealth of knowledge and experience, and not only just the route, but let's say there's a detour. They know that neighborhood. They know how to get around it. They know exactly where they're going.
Yep.
One thing I want people to understand is you're not providing drivers, you're not providing buses, you're providing software as a service, often called SaaS. Could you explain how your service works with metropolitan agencies?
Yeah, so we've essentially got two core products. One is the mission control. So that's really the operating system. That's where an agency or an operator can set up their services, whether that's a fixed route network or it's a demand responsive transport style service. They can manage their drivers, manage their vehicles, schedule those resources. They can put them out onto the road, see where all their vehicles are, and get access to feedback and data to improve those services. And on the other side of the fence, we've got the data intelligence platform. So that is really the platform where we can not only ingest data from our tools, so being our passenger applications, which could be a journey planner or a booking application, and the driver application, but also other IoT devices and hardware that sit on vehicles or other infrastructure. We can ingest that data. We can use that to help them inform them around compliance with contract requirements and KPIs, help them with just broader performance and also insights into how the network's performing and should it be adjusted? Are there opportunities for improvement? So we've set this up in a way that really one of the driving motivations for us is providing software that can be adopted, not only by the big end of town, but also the small end. A lot of these sectors are highly fragmented. Lots of really high quality mum and pop operators, small community shared transport operators. And the reality is that they're never going to be able to build, let alone afford, to build their own system. So the reason why we want to build something is to democratize access to this type of technology. So that
it's equity, it's equality and equity, it's social justice right there.
And if those small operators can deliver better services to their communities, then their communities will benefit. And I think that it's just an opportunity that I think is emerging. And I think a lot of those operators want to deliver better services. They feel the pain just as much as the big operators because
probably managing a little bit
more. Absolutely. So we're building something in a way that can be used by lots of different operators, lots of different sectors, and therefore effectively spreading the cost of developing something that takes a lot of research and development and upfront investment, and spreading that across a lot of clients, but importantly giving them access to these types of services.
The services you offer. When you mentioned IoT, just so people know, it's Internet of Things, just basically using the internet to your advantage, finding out where you are, what services are available to you, where you are on a map. And then you talked about the data collection. Data is key now. And that's key performance indicators, folks, just so you know, it's just measuring how you're doing. That's all it is. And data is just king right now. So many people are just amassing data and using it for the benefit of sustainability.
Yeah, and I think the thing that people have become more and more aware of is that there's an explosion in data. But a lot of that data is very, very noisy. It comes in all different formats and forms. And the challenge of actually converting raw data that comes in at scale into intelligence and insights is a really challenging thing to do, and to be able to do it in a way that's performant and quick is not an easy task. So that's really an area that we've channeled a lot of effort into. And
you have to have good data, and you have to know how to use your data. Yes. Something my geochem professor nailed into my head way back when.
And it's worth mentioning as well that all these operators and agencies that we deal with, they're not all specialist data scientists. They're very effective operators. Or they're exceptional network planners, or they're great operations center managers. A lot of these organizations just don't have the internal capability to.
It's not possible.
Not possible. So that's really the gap that we're hoping to fill, to be a partner to those, because we're not the experts in delivering a local community service, right? That's your area better than we do.
Absolutely.
And we want to understand that so we can configure the tools to best suit your needs. But we very much look at this as a partnership, because we're not going to come in and say this is how you should do it. We're going to say, how can we help you do it better?
Oh, I love how you said that, because collaboration is key with any industry. No one's going to walk in the door knowing everything. I mean, some people claim they do. They're wrong.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? You
No.
know, you have to adopt and improve.
And it's
that's what
constantly changing. The data that comes in, constantly changing. Everything with respect to how our climate's happening, sustainability, technology is exploding with new ideas. So your software as a service platform, you're based in Australia, but I believe this is something that anyone around the world could use.
Yeah, so we're building the platform to service many markets. Yeah, the United States is a location that we're collaborating with a couple of clients and looking to enter the market in the near future. There's a lot of similarities, obviously, between Australia and the US in terms of cultures and city structures and the geography, etc. So it feels like a very natural market for us to focus on. So yeah, that's the intent, and hopefully soon we'll start to hit the ground running.
Awesome. So if someone wanted to find you, what would be the best format?
Yeah, so my name's here, and you can find me easily through LinkedIn. But our website is bridj.com. You can access us through the website and see a little bit more about what we do. But really, I'm just keen to talk to agencies and operators and people that are interested, because part of entering a new market is to just learn, understand some of the problems. So yeah, very open to conversations and see where it heads.
Brilliant. I love what you're doing. And guys, please check out bridj.com. It's BRIDJ.com. And John Langford Eli, available on LinkedIn. Easily found. I found you. That means it's very easily found. So that being said, guys, John, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's very early in Australia for you, so I do thank you for that. And please come back with updates, new technologies, anything you want to talk about. Transportation is hugely important in what we're doing.
Thank you for having me. And look, I really think the next decade is just really exciting, because there's lots of great advances in these systems, but also in how we can leverage data to yield some really positive outcomes. And the evidence that's coming through is really compelling. So hopefully we can catch up again, and there are some exciting updates.
Fantastic. So thank you, guys. I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice. John, thank you again. The work you're doing with BRIDJ is amazing. Looking forward to seeing you guys everywhere. Great job.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.